This is WBSM On Demand.
I was just telling the intern about my exploits on Halloween when I was his age, trying to encourage him to go out and be a juvenile delinquent. I guess today, though, see, when I was a kid, there were no computers. You could do stuff and get away with it. Today, it follows you around in your real permanent record. But anyway, I'm just joking. The intern knows not to go out and throw eggs on Halloween. Anyway, so we're now joined by Pat Jehlen, State Senator, who's joining us to talk about Question 5. And I appreciate that because we kind of have been doing an unbalanced thing here because I'm opposed to Question 5. But so I do appreciate to have both sides of the issue. So we're now joined by Democrat State Senator Pat Jehlen. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I have heard about you from my colleagues, but I have never been there. I mean, I've been to Medford and places down there, but I have never been on your radio show before.
Well, we hope to have you back. We hope it's a good experience for you. So, Pat Jehlen, what areas of Massachusetts do you represent?
I represent Somerville, Medford, parts of Cambridge, and Winchester.
Oh, I know those places. I had girlfriends in Winchester and some of those other towns too. I like Somerville. One of my neighbors here in Fairhaven she's originally from Somerville. So tell us, that's a big restaurant area. Why do you support Question 5?
Well, let me put it in context that I think the biggest problem in our economy and society today is the increasing inequality and the concentration of income and wealth and power. And I think we should do everything we can to reduce the difference between working people and the people who are gaining billions of dollars, or at least millions for the people that we're going to talk about today. So that we have to do that because, like, the biggest crisis in Massachusetts is the housing crisis, the affordable housing crisis. Mm-hmm. And when people don't have a living wage, they can't afford to live in communities like mine. Now, New Bedford is in a slightly different position, but Somerville used to be a working-class community, and people are being priced out every day by developers coming in and transforming three-deckers into three luxury condos. So people need to have enough money to stay in their homes and communities, and so it's also that there's a income gap that I've worked on for many years for women and people of color who don't make as much. So everybody needs adequate living wages. People need predictable wages. So we found during the pandemic particularly that people applying for unemployment didn't qualify or didn't have full benefits because their wages were unpredictable. So I want to say that many servers do well in this system, but most of them don't, because it depends on where you work. It depends on what tables you're given. It depends on what days and times you work. But most servers are more likely to live in poverty. They're more likely to depend on public benefits. They're more likely to experience wage theft. They have, I think, over half the wage theft cases in Massachusetts are brought by tipped workers and their representatives. They're more likely to experience sexual harassment. So this initiative will help some, but it won't solve all those problems. And I want to say right now that I think that it is flawed, and I will move in the new session if it passes, which I am less likely to believe every day. I will move to amend it to ensure that workers can vote on the tip pooling provision. But let me finally say that I am very conscious that both restaurant workers and restaurant owners and workers are very worried about their survival. But it's the small businesses that are most at risk. Since they're phasing in, this ballot initiative would phase in the increase over 5 years. since many have already raised their base wages in order to keep staff, and it is a smaller increase than either rent or food or inflation. And it's certainly less than the increases workers are facing in their rent bills and their grocery bills. So the industry's message entirely is that workers are worried. They're especially worried because of what their employers tell them. And much of it isn't true. And there's studies from UMass Amherst and from Dartmouth, I think it's Dartmouth, that say that, yes, there will likely be an increase in prices, but UMass Amherst said it will be about $2.75 over 4 years, $2.75 per customer over 4 years. That's much less than the cost of the food, much less than the rent increases. So, but I think that the one thing they do tell them that is true is that it allows for tip pooling at the owner's discretion. So I will try to change that, and I think that workers will try to change that.
We have State Senator Pat Jehlen here on the phone. Senator, you say you want to change so people understand. When a ballot question passes, it eventually goes back to the legislature for some fine tuning. So you would have another shot at this, essentially, right?
That would be my plan. We never heard about this during the hearings that we held on this bill. So I know that many owners would like to have the ability to redistribute tips to the back of the house. I just think that needs to be resolved with the people who would be having their pay redistributed. I just want to also point out that the money for this is largely coming from it. The campaign against the question has raised over close to $2 million.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And plus all the money that the in-kind contributions. You do go to restaurants and you see the signs and you see the T-shirts. Restaurant owners are very concerned about it, and that's largely because they're told by their association that it will be bad for them.
Yeah.
It's not happened in other states that have it. There are 7 states that have one fair wage with tips on top. Tips haven't gone down. Restaurants are more likely to be a little more likely to be successful, less likely to close. The employment has not gone down. Tips have not gone down. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
that I would try to change that because I don't think it's fair for an employer to have unilateral control over people's pay.
You're concerned with the tip pooling part of the question?
Yes.
Do you think you'd be able to remove that in the legislative session?
We have no idea what will happen in a legislative session.
Well, I guess that's true. But you've got some experience there, Senator Jehlen. So, what is the attitude within the your colleagues among the Senate, do you think?
We haven't had a chance to test that.
Okay.
I think it would depend on the messaging and whether, for example, Unite Here, which is a union that represents tipped workers, especially in hotels, they are neutral on the question because of this. And I think it was a mistake to put it in the ballot question. I'm not supposed to talk against this, but I think we need to be honest with people.
Yes.
That I don't think that's something that workers would appreciate. They would like to have. Some of them would like to redistribute tips to the back of the house because they think that's fair.
Senator,
but they should have a vote on it.
I have to ask the question. Who told you not to talk against the question? I
feel very strongly that we need to pass the question, and because there is now another effort to increase the minimum wage from $15 an hour, which is not a living wage.
No.
But there was an effort to change that. And what happened last time we raised the minimum wage is we raised the sub-minimum wage, the tipped wage, but by less. And the gap between the minimum wage and the sub-minimum wage has increased. So I think that in order to get to parity, to eliminating the sub-minimum wage, we're less likely to treat tipped workers fairly in the next grand bargain if the ballot question is defeated. So I'm very worried about that.
Oh, I understand. So, Dan, did you ever work back when before you were a senator in the hospitality industry?
Let me tell you,
yes.
I have not. No,
right.
My daughter has, but I have not. Well, yes.
Because you've certainly seen the minimum. What was the minimum wage when you first started in the workforce? What was the minimum wage?
Oh, I have no idea. I was making $40 a week.
Okay. Well,
I'm quite old.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that. I've never met you, Senator Jehlen. So, but you sound spry. So I never would have known that. I just was wondering how long you've seen it come up quite a ways then.
Oh yeah. But the cost of living has gone up more, and I think it's particularly hard for working people that their wages have not kept up with inflation, and they certainly have not kept up with rent. I just see people priced out.
Oh, the inflation is unbelievable, Senator Jehlen. You must remember, so since you've indicated you're older, I remember the Nixon inflation. Barely, I was a child, but I remember my parents complaining about it. We're living in inflationary times like the times under Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon.
Well, I don't have as good a grasp of economic history as you, but I am very conscious of how hard it is for people right now. If I didn't own my home, if I had to rent, I don't think I could stay in my community.
It's really, really hard out there for people.
And my daughter and our granddaughters live with us.
So then. So Senator Jehlen, your thing is you want people to vote yes on question 5.
Yes, and yes, because I think we need to bring up people who are not making enough.
Now, you will then, any of the problems with the question, you believe you can maybe iron those out or fix them in the legislative session?
Well, we have done that in the past in several occasions. After we passed the marijuana ballot question, I chaired the committee, and people are very critical of it now, but I think we did the best we could at the time, and we really rewrote that law. I don't think this ballot question needs as much work, but I think that one provision of it needs to go through the legislative process.
Senator Jehlen, I really appreciate you joining us. Is there any other questions you want to talk about that we have you here on the air, or would you like to, or is that the only question you really want to talk about?
Well, I do like question 3 because I think all workers need a union, or at least the opportunity to have a union.
That's the Uber union.
What?
That's the one on Uber, right? Question 3.
Uber. That's right. I think that's very important. And then I think question 2, which would remove the graduation, the MCAS as a graduation requirement, not remove the MCAS, of course, but to remove it as a graduation requirement. I think that will help more kids get a chance to join the Army, move on to college, and get better jobs. Because there's some kids who don't do as well, even with many chances. And 700 kids a year don't graduate, even though they did all the work that they were required to in high school. 700 kids is not nothing.
No, it's not. It's 700 lives, 700 individual lives.
And their potential families.
Yes.
And yes, so those are the 3 questions that I'm really focused on. And I think it's very important. I think it's unfortunate when the legislature doesn't take up things that people care about a lot.
Yes.
Because we do, when we have a chance to think about things and talk to each other and listen to our constituents, it's much more individual. We're able to think in a more concrete, and we can way, and we can amend things, and we can change things, and we can try to make them better. So I do like the legislative process, but sometimes people go to the ballot, and then we either accept what happens or we try to change it.
Senator Jehlen, I really appreciate you making time for my audience this morning. I hope you have a great day. I really do appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Thank you.
Well, I know I don't represent anybody in your neighborhood, but I do try to visit every now and then the South Coast because I do. What is that park that is along the water?
Riverside Park.
No, it's a state park.
Oh, is it Horseneck?
I don't know.
Horseneck
anyway.
Beach by the Westport River. Yeah,
I've been to Horseneck, but then if you go east of that, we won't go into that. I'm embarrassed that I won't.
No, that's okay. That's okay, Senator Jehlen. We totally appreciate it. Mike Rodgers will give you a tour around, though. He's down there every day.
I know it.
We do appreciate those, Senator Jehlen, quite a lot. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my friend. Senator Jehlen from the Somerville, Winchester, Medford area of Massachusetts. Very densely populated, important area of the state. So we do appreciate Senator Jehlen and Michael Rock for setting that up. Folks, stick around. We're going to take a break. If you want to get on the air, if you have comments on question 5, comments on anything really, happy to take your calls at 508-9960. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. I'm Chris McCarthy. Of course, that's Jesse St. Gelais singing. Now, you ever seen Jesse? Most of you have met him. He looks like Michael Bublé. I'm not kidding around. He does look like Michael Bublé. And so anyway, look, I can't help but to tell you I'm partial to people that sponsor this program, people that advertise here. So I encourage you to vote for them. It's a smart thing to advertise on this program. Jesse St. Gelais is advertising here. Joe Pyers is advertising here. A number of the county commission candidates are advertising here. And when city elections come around, people for city elections advertise here. And the reason they advertise is they want your vote. They know that you are listening to this program, listening to WBSM, and they want your vote. So you ought to reward them with your allegiance because they're asking for your vote. Remember, Tip O'Neill said, don't vote for somebody that won't ask you for your vote, right? So Joe Pyers is asking for your vote. Jesse St. Gelais is asking for your vote. When you listen to this program, you hear the people that are asking for your vote, right? So act accordingly. Anyway, we got a bunch of people on hold. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
What's happening?
Not too much. I really appreciate you having that senator on. I was laughing the whole time. She reminds me of my grandmother.
Yes.
I could take my grandmother to a store and tell her I needed to buy beach chairs and suntan lotion for Eskimos, and she'd buy them. Oh, brother. I'll see you later, Chris. Bye.
Thanks for the call. I didn't intend for that to happen, folks. But, you talk, you can get to form opinions about people. That's why talk radio is the best form of media, right? 508-9960-500. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Chris.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you, you're making a name for yourself. I heard that senator said people are talking about you up on Beacon Hill.
They're talking about my listeners, I think, more than me.
I was like, that's pretty good. Chris is going global. That's what's going to happen. From the seat at New Bedford, the greater New Bedford area, going global. So one thing that I actually found interesting that she consistently repeated, and every time she said it, I kind of giggled. We don't want to redistribute to the back of the house. That's completely unfair. I'm like, Isn't that the basis, the entire basis of the Democratic economic plan? Consistently, it's to redistribute from one to another to make it easier and equity and all that stuff. So it's interesting that out of the entire question, the entire law that she's promoting, that's the part that she has a problem with. We don't want to redistribute to the back of the house. Why? Why don't they deserve it? They're working hard. Those are the people who actually make the food that you want to come and eat. So I don't know. It just made me laugh. I was like, you know what? They don't want to redistribute. Only if you're Jeff Bezos. You know, if you're Jeff Bezos, we'll redistribute your income, but you know, we don't want to redistribute my constituents' income. That's something completely different. But yeah, fantastic interview. Wowee. But yeah, there you go. Good on you, Chris. Very famous up there in the North Shore, I guess, and the South Shore.
Yes.
North and South Shore and the South Coast.
I'm kind of infamous in the metro Boston area, but that's for other reasons. Thanks for the call, my friend, as always. Look, Senator Jehlen, very nice woman and very honest about her opinions, right? Now, that caller is a former Marxist, so he recognizes the language of someone who's indoctrinated in Marxist thought. And look, I didn't want to be too aggressive with the senator. After all, she was a guest in the program. But if you've been paying attention to the program, as I know most of you have, when we had in Steve Silverstein, who's a major restaurant owner in the region, pays major taxes to fund the schools and the police, the fire department in the region, right? Steve Silverstein pointed out that his workers make north of $30 an hour, his tipped employees, north of $30 an hour, right? But Pat Jehlen wants to bring them all down to the minimum wage, which is $15 an hour. So if you currently work at the Black Whale, Democrat Senator Pat Jehlen wants to cut your paycheck in half. But she wants to make everybody equal, right? It's like Cuba. Everyone will be equally in misery, right? You have a blackout, but at least you all have a blackout, right? It is equality in poverty. She admits that $15 an hour isn't a living wage, but she wants to bring everybody down to the minimum wage, which is not a livable wage. But if you work at the Black Whale, you're making, or you work at Cisco, or you work at Joe's out there on Route 6, you're making north of $15 an hour if you're a tipped employee. We had the birthday girl, right? Darby Costa from Rose Alley in a couple weeks ago, and she's talking about none of her servers could live on $15 an hour, and they all make more than that. Right? So, again, Senator Pat Jehlen, very nice woman. And I really appreciate her calling in and making an argument for yes on 6. And that way we're better informed when we go vote. I'm going to vote no on question 5. No on 5. That's what I'm going to vote. That's how I'm going to vote. Why? Because I've talked to the servers, both here on the radio and in actual establishments. And I've talked to the owners. And the owners really know the business, right? Anyway, 508-996-0500. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Chris. It's Darby Costa.
Hey, Darby Costa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having her in. It was very entertaining.
And I wasn't aggressive at all with her.
No, not at all. You were good. She's a guest after all, right?
Yes.
My biggest question for her was how would making $15 an hour stop from people sexual harassing my staff?
I thought the same thing. I just didn't want to ask her because I didn't want to broach the subject.
Oh, I wish she was on. I would ask her. And also, she mentioned during the pandemic that we weren't making money And yes, that's true because the state forced our restaurants to close.
Right. She did that.
Yes. Yep. It's absurd.
So you're still voting no on question 5, Darby?
Absolutely.
Have you had any one of your people, any of your employees tell you they wanted to go to $15 an hour? Because I know you could arrange it. But
one person that I've spoken to in the whole restaurant industry that wants this to pass.
it's dangerous. It's scary. You got to be scary, right? To think that your income is on the ballot box this year.
Yep. And that people support it. Not surprised, but some people support it.
Well, you have wealthy lawyers and wealthy capitalists, venture capitalists, who put a lot of money into trying to take your wages, lower them. It's amazing to me.
Yep, and they're all out of state. They're all from California. It's all for a bigger progressive movement.
You get it, Darby. I appreciate you calling again.
I get it.
Have a great birthday today.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Darby Costa works at Rose Alley, great friend of the program. We do appreciate her making time out of her busy mom schedule to join the program. Again, folks, this is about as grassroots as it gets. You have restaurant owners teamed up with their employees. As I mentioned, over the weekend, I investigated who is financing question 5, right? Who's getting State Senator Pat Jehlen interested in the question? Well, you have a wealthy lawyer who is a Democrat, ran for Attorney General on the Massachusetts Democrat Party ballot line. Her name is Shannon Riss Reardon. Shannon Liss Reardon. Emphasis on the hyphen. So she's got a hyphenated name. Shannon is a great lawyer, a very successful attorney. She wrote a $20,000 personal check for the Political Action Committee in favor of question 5. A Democrat wrote a $20,000 check in favor of question 5. So you're going to have the option to vote Democrat or not vote Democrat, to vote in favor of your waitresses and waiters, bartenders, and the investors that have made restaurants possible. When you go to the ballot box and vote, if you're not a registered voter, go register to vote. Actually, it's over. You can't now. The time to register is over. The time to vote is now. 508-996-05. We've got a bunch of people on hold. If you want to get through, you can. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend.
I have a comment on this, but I did want to tell you something funny that happened last night. I have this big TV in my bedroom, and I was watching YouTube, and I fell asleep, and I woke up to this guy talking, and I looked up, and it was Christopher Thrasher in full is larger than life in my bedroom. And it scared the crap out of me.
He's running YouTube commercials?
Yeah, he's running YouTube commercials, and I was just like, "Hi, I'm Christopher Thrasher." I was like, "Oh!" Almost woke my wife up. Anyway, besides that, the funniest thing about you have great interviews. I don't mean to blow your head up, but the funny thing is, she's a nice lady that's out of touch. And what's really clear to me now is this referendum was put together with zero input from the people that own restaurants and bars and the people that work in them.
Right.
So they constantly go with, oh, well, we want fair and equitable. Everyone needs to make more money. And all that sounds great, except the result is they're going to make less money.
Right.
So, and I worked for a million years in restaurants when I was growing up. And I got to tell you, the staff in the kitchen is a resource for the restaurant. They're paid a wage. Dishwashers don't get a lot of money because it's not a high-tech job, and the servers do tip when they feel like they're getting support if they get back support from people in the kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. But and bartenders will do the same thing, but it's very well metered based on how that restaurant runs and what type of restaurant it is, and so all I can say is it's going to be really disastrous, because one thing she didn't bring up was what happens when the restaurants go away. There's no answer for that, because the jobs go away with the restaurants.
Right.
And I know, I'll leave you with this. My friend was voted the #1 bartender in Rhode Island, and she works in Tiverton. I was talking to her yesterday after the football game, and she said, "Yeah, I make about $35 an hour with tips,
Yep.
But if this came into Rhode Island, it's over." She said, "I have to go look for other work immediately, because I'll never make the money that I'm making that supports my family along with what my husband does." So she knows it's an end game for her. It's not, and so I think without the input from the restaurant owners and the staff, this never should be on the ballot. So, anyway.
I appreciate that, and thanks for the call, my friend, as always. Steve Silverstein and Jay Lanigan told us their tipped employees, on average, make more than $30 an hour. And this good state senator from Somerville, Medford area, told us that everybody should be equal in making the minimum wage, although acknowledging that the minimum wage of $15 an hour is not a livable wage. I mean, but you can see where Marxism has invaded her thinking, right? 508-996-0500. I'm going to take it. I got some people on hold, but I do have 2 phone lines open. So if you want to get through, you can. 508-9960. We're going to take a very brief break. Stick around. We'll be right back. And that is a spitting image for Jesse St. Chalet's Michael Bublé. I don't know if Jesse can sing. Not sure he can dance either, but I know he can knock on doors. He's been out knocking on doors all over Acushnet and Freetown and Westport, certainly, and the north end of New Bedford and Fall River. So I think Jesse, who's been a sponsor here, his parents and his father's insurance agency is a sponsor here on the program. Jesse certainly spent a lot of time asking for your vote with his radio advertisements here on WBSM, and I don't think you should forget about that when you go to vote. All right. We got a bunch of people on hold. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, my friend.
What's happening?
Well, you're happening because that's a great interview you had, and that's the best of Chris McCarthy, presented the other side, even though he doesn't particularly agree with that lady. How did you get her to come on? How did you find her?
Michael Rock actually booked that. He reached out and found her somehow, and that's how we got her.
Oh, very, very good. I like opposite points of view, and I know where your sympathies lie and the program's sympathies lie, but it says a lot of you that you would bring the lady on and speak to her in a respectful way and have her present her views, whether you agree with them or not. And that's the strong part of your program, I think, when you do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, well, yeah, and the fact that, too, that somebody mentioned that they're hearing us down here up on Beacon Hill. Maybe not.
She did.
You said,
she did.
Okay, there you go. And that's great. I'd like to see our mayor, who's very articulate, go on OTR and say, yeah, I'm the mayor of the city of New Bedford, and this is what we do, and this is what we've got, and you've got some misconceptions, and blah, 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 because he could certainly do that. He's certainly intelligent enough. By the way, did you watch OTR this Sunday?
I did not.
Okay, on OTR, one of the things, Marianne Marsh brought out that, because they had on Ed Markey, all right, and they asked him if he was going to run again for senator. And he said, in 2026, I'm ready to go, okay? So after he got off, and Marianne Marsh said, well, he might get a challenge in the primary from Joe Kennedy, right? Which I thought, okay. And then Rob Gray, the Republican side, said, well, I think Charlie Baker has an interest in that time, too. So I thought that was very interesting information.
That's very interesting from Rob Gray. Yeah. Now, Kennedy is over there in Ireland now. I don't know that he has, but of course he wants to be a U.S. Senator. I don't blame him. Who wouldn't?
Absolutely.
But I think that Kennedy really got beaten. Down here we delivered for Kennedy.
Absolutely.
But around the rest of the state, he really got his ass kicked by Markey.
Well, I don't think the Democratic Party really got in back of him, and I don't understand why. I guess they got a thing against Kennedy. I don't know. To me, he's got the name. He's a good guy. I again, jealousy, I don't know. To me, I really believe that some of these elderly politicians, and he looks like he's still somewhat sharp, Mr. Markey. Hey, he'll be in his early 80s when this happens.
Yes.
Okay, I think there should be, just like, again, you can't run for president unless you're 35 years old. And I imagine people like Marcus Farrow, before he was 35, could run. He's an intelligent guy. If you're going to limit people on the bottom, why not limit people that are at the top, too? In other words, hey, look, you've had your time. Thank you for your service. And, let's try to get some rotation in office. We don't get any rotation in office. I'm sure there's a lot of young people that have a lot more at stake in the future than us older people, and they should be heard and be brought to the fore. There's a time to leave, too, I think, so.
Well, I guess, how do I put it? I think that, truthfully, age is just a number, and it's different for everybody. It really is different for everybody.
My point is, I think a younger person like Obama's age now, okay, he's still okay if he could run, okay? I think Bill Clinton was young for a long time, too, okay? But, again, there's a greater chance when you're at, 80s, 90s of having medical complications than most people like Obama right now have. He could have it, but, he's still very much a young man, that sort of thing. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not making it at Ed Markey. I'm making it at the age the person's at. Even Trump, he may not be like Biden.
Certainly not.
But again, he's rip-roaring and out there, and he might be like the person that gets dementia or something and starts hitting at people that come at him. I don't know.
Well, I mean...
swinging at people that come at him. That sort of stuff. So there's different types of... age, and even myself at my age, I'm in my 70s, and I can realize that I'm not the person that I used to be, and 60s, 50s, 40s, all that sort of stuff. So I think there comes a time where I think you could graciously step down and get the accolades of your peers and stuff, and which you deserve, and try to bring in new blood. I'm sure there's new blood out there.
Oh, there's definitely new. Thanks for calling, my friend. There's definitely new blood who wants a U.S. Senate seat. Look, I've never really agreed with Ed Markey on anything, but I haven't noticed that he's slipping in any way. Now, again, I don't agree with Ed Markey, so I'm not signing off on how he feels about things, but he doesn't show any of the signs like Joe Biden does of aging. So I don't think. Well, obviously, the longer you're around, the more likely it is that you get some disease. We know that. But I think look, I have lunch weekly. I speak with him nearly daily. He's communicated with him nearly daily through emails with a guy who's in his mid-80s, who's sharper than I am. Always has been. But, he's young at heart, and he's really involved in stuff. And I would put his mind up against really anybody else's mind, certainly any 40-year-old's mind, even though this guy's in his 80s, because he's got so much experience and so much wisdom, and he's just really sharp guy. So, that's out there. So, I think it's a case-by-case basis. And I think the Democrats Party would likely reject Kennedy. But now, Charlie Baker, that's a different story. That could be very, very interesting, right? All right, if you're on hold, stay there, but I do have to take a break. Be a short one, so we'll be right back. Program, I'm Chris McCarthy. Did anybody see all those people that were out in Wareham, down by the Walmart, holding Trump signs? And then all those people, I think they were different people, that were holding signs in Dartmouth. You had a massive group over in Plymouth County, and then another massive group in Dartmouth, in Bristol County, holding Trump signs this weekend. Two amazing groups. There had to be, couple hundred in each location. It was really wall-to-wall people holding Trump signs. It was amazing. And it's just, I think it's going to be a major victory for Donald Trump. I just really feel that. But I am concerned that some of you are not going to go vote. You're going to think Trump's got it. You're going to think the rest of the tickets got it, and you're going to not go vote. I hope that's not the case. You can go vote today. No matter where you live, you can vote today. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So this is why we need to vote Republican down ballot, because these people on Beacon Hill pass laws and they don't even pay attention to what's in there. Because the tip workers, if they don't make at least $15 an hour with their tips, the boss has to make up the difference.
Right.
So what is this woman talking about?
She doesn't.
I'm like, I don't understand.
She doesn't know.
Workers don't make enough, but really, when she passed the bill, she didn't pay attention.
Well, it's clear. You gotta focus. When you get through, you gotta focus. Anyway, thank you for the call. The fact of the matter is that Senator Jehlen obviously does not appreciate the vagaries of capitalism, right? She wants all the bonuses, right? The good stuff, the plentiful products, the never have shortages, all of that stuff. But she doesn't appreciate the vagaries of capitalism. She wants things to be constant, and there are no constants in a vibrant economy. What is up goes down. What is down comes up, right? What is down comes up. If you want to be in the restaurant industry and you want a constant income, you can be a dishwasher, okay? If you want to be a little more artistic with a constant of wages, you can be a cook. Now, not everyone can be a cook. Just about everyone can be a dishwasher. But that's why the wages are lower. Not everybody can be a smiling, happy, put up with the public, pain in the ass that they are, hostess, waitress, bartender. I can't imagine being a bartender, okay? I know, like, my own friends when they've had too much to drink, right? Or even a little bit too much to drink, right? It takes a lot to be a bartender. Natalie was a bartender, right? I know all about it from her telling me. Of course, she made a lot of money when she did it, right? She's a college professor now. She doesn't make anywhere near the kind of money, but it's constant, it's conspicuous, right? She generally doesn't have to deal with people intoxicated, generally, as a professor. But the world is not a constant. And the owners, the people that pay the taxes, that pay Senator Jehlen's salary, right? They are the entrepreneurs, the Jay Lanigans, the Steve Silversteins. So the idea that we're going to have a constant. Yeah, you can have a constant, but it'll be low. It'll be $15 an hour. So Senator Jehlen, her recommendation for a more thriving economy is to cut everybody's paycheck so that nobody makes more than the other person, right? Which is clear in her very honest thinking. I appreciate Senator Jehlen for making the appearance here on my program. Anyway, stick around for the local and national news. And when we come back, we're going to have more talk from you. You'll be the guest. We'll have some other people in studio as well. All right? I think we're going to have somebody from the